Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from the Daily Signal dated September 11th. And given what you're looking at, if you're looking at all, at the screen right now and a picture of Charlie Kirk, yes, this is in the aftermath of his assassination. And I think it's important to get this out there about, as it says in the headlines, the 7 horrific incidents of violence against conservatives, because this just kind of keeps happening. Rest in peace, Charlie. Let's go ahead and get into this. This is the shooting death of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University Wednesday, so it was September 10th, marks one more in a list of violent attacks against prominent conservatives. Kirk, 31, I can't believe he was 31 years old. I don't know why. He just seemed older than he was. No offense to him or anything. He's just much more mature than his age. 31, Jesus Christ. He had been hosting an event with students and was in the middle of discussing shooters who identify as transgender. He founded Turning Point USA to bring together conservative young people, and the organization grew to become the largest conservative youth grassroots group in the country. The shooting came less than 5 months after the Southern Poverty Law Center, which became famous for suing KKK groups into bankruptcy in the 80s, so they did something good once upon a time. You're going to find out pretty quickly here that they are not a force for good anymore and have long since not been. They put Turning Point USA on a hate map with chapters of the KKK. Yes, because they're obviously the same things, you absolute spoons. This is why the SPLC has gotten sued into oblivion a bunch of times and lost. Okay? It says, in a statement today, the group said, "We condemn the shooting of Charlie Kirk and all violence in any form." No, you don't, because you don't care, because why would they be on this hate map then? Says this does not mark the first time conservatives have been targeted for violence after the SPLC criticized them. Conservatives have faced many kinds of hostility, including 96 attacks on pro-life pregnancy centers and 356 attacks on Catholic churches since the leak of the Supreme Court opinion overturning Roe v. Wade in 2022. 356 attacks since just 3 years? I had no idea. That is ridiculous. And 96 attacks, so what does that equal? Plus 100, it's 452 attacks on things that would be considered right-wing in just 3 years. So that's, what does that come out to? I mean, that's over a year's worth of, if just one happened every day, of just something happening. That's horrific. There's Democrats, too, have faced attacks, most recently in the horrific shooting of former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman. This article, however, focuses on physical attacks on Republican leaders or conservative groups. There's a 2012 terrorist attack. It says, in 2012, Floyd Lee Corkins II opened fire at the Washington, D.C. headquarters of the conservative Christian think tank, the Family Research Council. I remember hearing about this. It says he carried a semi-automatic pistol and a bag of Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches. He later told the FBI he targeted the Family Research Council because he found it on the SPLC hate map. He said he intended to shoot everyone in the building and smear a Chick-fil-A sandwich on their faces. At the time, liberals had criticized Chick-fil-A for funding socially conservative groups like the Family Research Council. Oh no, you mean conservatives can own things too? As in September 2013, a judge sentenced Corkins, 29, to 25 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to 3 felony charges, including a terrorism offense. The SPLC condemned the attack, but did not take the Family Research Council off the hate map, so they didn't learn their lesson. And here's one that seemingly everybody seems to forget actually happened, the congressional baseball game shooting. It says, in June 2017, 66-year-old James T. Hodgkinson opened fire at a Republican practice for the congressional baseball game. He shot and wounded 4 people. Then House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, who almost died, and it says that in the next paragraph I see, says he's a Republican of Louisiana, U.S. Capitol Police Officer Crystal Griner, congressional aide Zach Barth, and lobbyist Matt Mika. Scalise nearly lost his life, and he ascribed his survival to a series of 17 miracles documented in his book, Back in the Game, One Gunman, Countless Heroes, and The Fight for My Life. Hodgkinson specifically targeted Republicans in the shooting. He had volunteered for Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign in 2016 and liked the SPLC on Facebook. The SPLC had repeatedly attacked Scalise. Sanders vehemently condemned the shooting. Then SPLC CEO Richard Cohen condemned the attack as a sickening and cowardly act of terror that must be condemned by everyone across the political spectrum. SPLC, you kind of have a bad record here, pals. Already, we're just 2 in. So here's the next one. It says, Rand Paul attacked. It says, and I remember this too. It says, also in 2017, then 59-year-old Rene Boucher, or is it, I'm just going to Boucher or Boucher? I'm going to say Boucher, like Bobby Boucher, a neighbor, physically attacked Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, from behind while the senator was mowing his lawn. Paul suffered multiple fractured ribs and later contracted pneumonia, which required medical attention. Boucher admitted the assault, but denied it was politically motivated, NBC News reported. A judge had initially sentenced Boucher to 30 days in jail, 100 hours of community service, and a $10,000 fine, but prosecutors said the sentence was too lenient. A judge added 8 months in prison to the sentence in July 2020, along with an additional 6 months of home confinement. It seems like a pretty light sentence. I didn't know it was that light. It says Minnesota Republican sucker punched before election. In October 2018, 53-year-old Richard Schmidt punched Shane Meckland, a Republican candidate for the Minnesota House of Representatives. During the attack, Schmidt reportedly said, "You effing people don't give a shit about the middle class." Schmidt pleaded guilty to third-degree felony assault. Yes, and sir, Republicans are the only group here that cares about the middle class. But anyway, it says a would-be Kavanaugh assassin. Again, people seem to memory hold this one too. It says in June 2022, 26-year-old Nicholas Roski staked out near the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh with weapons in an assassination attempt. The suspect told police he was upset about the leak of a recent Supreme Court draft decision regarding the right to abortion, as well as the recent school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. So if you remember, this was like when the Roe v. Wade decision got leaked, was when this happened, which no one's ever found out who leaked that, so wonderful. As Roski pleaded guilty in May to attempting to assassinate Kavanaugh, and a judge has scheduled his sentencing for October 3rd. That's coming up in just a few weeks. And then, of course, there's Butler, Pennsylvania. This is on July 24th, 2024, July 13th of 2024. I can talk. 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks shot then-former President Donald Trump in the air in Butler, Pennsylvania. Crooks also shot dead 50-year-old Corey Comparatori, a former volunteer fire chief. Many questions about Crooks remain unanswered. Trump has credited God and a miracle for his survival. Yeah, that head turn at the last second, that would be it. It says a second assassination attempt. It says in September 2024, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth aimed a rifle at Trump at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. And that's not that far from where my parents are in Florida, about 15 minutes from there. The Secret Service arrested Ruth, who is standing trial in Fort Pierce this week. Ruth pleaded not guilty to charges of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate and assaulting a federal officer, along with many firearm charges. He faces a sentence of life in prison if convicted, and I have a feeling he's going to be, and that's the end of the thing. There's no conclusion or anything, but there's those things. So yeah, this is something that just keeps on happening, and and then of course you have absolute melt brains like Jasmine Crockett out there saying stuff like that. The right is the one responsible for all the political violence, and it's like there's just 7, okay. And for all you lefties that are going to listen to this. Okay, I want you to list all the right-wing violence, okay? I'll spot you January 6th and Charlottesville. I'm talking about all the right-wing violence in the last decade since Trump came down the escalator in 2015. You get Charlottesville, you get January 6th. What else? Okay? Meanwhile, we could probably go on for, well, a whole hell of a lot longer about all the left-wing violence, and just look at all the school shootings that have happened recently, or all the mass shootings, I should say, of those two. They're all left-wingers. They all have something in common as well, it seems. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Feel free to add any more if you want to. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.